deep in the heart of the Twilight Timberlands, where the ancient trees stood tall and their twisted branches tangled like secret whispers, the forest awakened each morning with a symphony of rustling leaves, chirping birds, and the distant babbling of the Moonstone Creek. Squirrels darted between branches, foxes stretched lazily in their burrows, and a chorus of frogs croaked from the mossy rocks. Every creature in the forest knew that morning was a time for new adventures. Well, almost every creature. Tucked away inside a hollow log near the creek lay Benny, the sleepiest, clumsiest, most forgetful bear cub in all of Twilight Timberlands. Benny wasn't like the other cubs who leaped from rock to rock or raced up trees the moment the sun peeked over the hills. No, Benny loved to sleep. More than honey, more than belly rubs, more than anything. His fur was always a mess, with twigs tangled in it from his habit of rolling over in his sleep. His nose was big, his ears were too floppy, and worst of all, he snored loudly. Not just a normal soft bear snore, but a deep, rumbling, earth-shaking kind of snore that made owls wake up and glare at him from the treetops. This morning, just like every other, Benny was late. "Wake up, Benny," boomed the voice of Maple, his best friend and the most energetic squirrel in the forest. She thumped her tiny paws against his hollow log. From inside, a slow, groggy mumble replied, 5 more minutes." "No more minutes," Maple squeaked, hopping furiously. "The others are already at the great stump, and we're supposed to build the best tree fort ever today." Benny groaned. He loved the idea of playing, but getting out of bed, that was the hardest thing in the world. His body felt like a pile of bricks. His fur was a tangled disaster, and his paws never seemed to work properly in the mornings. He stretched, yawned so wide that a passing butterfly nearly got sucked in, and finally, very dramatically, rolled out of his log. Thud. "Ow," Benny grumbled as he landed face first into the dirt. Maple sighed. "This is why you're always late, Benny. You sleep too much, you trip over everything, and you always miss the best parts of the day." Benny rubbed his eyes, trying to wake up, but his whole body still felt like a soggy marshmallow. He waddled after Maple, dragging his feet, blinking unevenly like an owl who stayed up too late. As they reached the great stump, the other forest animals were already hard at work. Theo the Fox, Pip the Raccoon, and Luna the Owl had gathered sticks, leaves, and vines to build the grandest tree fort in the Timberlands. "You're late, again," Theo said, flicking his fluffy tail. Yeah, I know," Benny mumbled. He yawned so big that Pip had to dodge his breath. "You always miss everything, Benny," Luna hooted from a low branch. "Yesterday, you fell asleep before the fireflies came out, and the day before that, you missed the berry feast." Benny sighed. He did miss everything. He wanted to play, to run, to be part of the fun, but his body just didn't work the way the others did. He was always tired, slow, and, worst of all, clumsy. "Can you at least help us tie these vines?" Pip asked, offering Benny a long stretch of leafy rope. Benny nodded. "Of course!" He grabbed the vine, but his big, clumsy paws fumbled, and before he knew it, he had somehow tied himself into a giant knot. "Benny!" Maple shouted. I don't even know how this happened," Benny said, upside down and very tangled. The others sighed. "Just untangle yourself and watch us, okay?" Benny felt his ears droop. He wanted to help, but he always messed things up. So he sat on a nearby rock, his big, round eyes blinking slowly as the others built their masterpiece. And then he fell asleep. Not just a little nap, a full-on, drooling, snoring, deep, bare sleep. Right in the middle of everything. The others didn't notice at first. They were too busy laughing and working. But then, crack. The tree fort, which had been barely holding together, suddenly wobbled. Snap. A branch fell. Whoosh. Leaves fluttered everywhere as the entire structure came crashing down, right on top of Benny. He woke up just in time to see the vines, branches, and leaves tumbling toward him. Ah! Thump. Silence. Benny sat there, eyes wide, covered in twigs and leaves, a pile of vines wrapped around his ears. Nobody spoke for a long moment. Then Maple burst out laughing. "Benny, you just got flattened by a tree fort while sleeping." The others joined in, giggling and hooting. Even Theo, usually the serious one, chuckled. Benny, dazed and tangled, looked around. He had fallen asleep and completely missed the disaster. And yet, he couldn't help but laugh too. His deep bear giggles rumbled through the forest. "You know what?" Pip said. "That's your special talent, Benny." Benny blinked. "Getting squashed by tree forts? No." Pip grinned. "Falling asleep anywhere, at any time, under any circumstances, not even a falling fort can stop you." Benny paused. That was true. He had always thought his sleepiness was a problem, that it made him too slow, too clumsy, too different. But maybe, just maybe, it was a part of who he was. "Yeah," Benny said, smiling. "I am really good at sleeping, huh?" The others cheered. The best in Twilight Timberlands. With that, the group decided to rebuild the tree fort with Benny as their official nap tester. Because if Benny could sleep through it, then it was definitely sturdy. As the sun began to set, Benny stretched, feeling warm and happy for the first time in a long while. Maybe he wasn't the fastest or the most graceful or even the most awake, but he was himself, and that was enough. And with that thought, he curled up in the soft grass and fell asleep before the others even finished celebrating. Hey there, little adventurers. Benny the bear cub learned something super important. It's okay to be different. Maybe you're not the fastest runner, the best at drawing, or the loudest singer, and that's totally fine. What makes you you is special, just like Benny's superpower of falling asleep anywhere, even under a tree fort. Instead of worrying about what you can't do, celebrate what makes you unique. Your friends and family love you for who you are, not just what you can do. So be proud, be you, and always remember, you are amazing just the way you are.